You know, I wouldn't consider myself really bad at most games that I play. But for once, I am willing to admit, I think I found a game style, a game genre, a game type, or a game specifically that I am really bad at. And that is, of course, with Marvel Tokon, or Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, or more specifically, fighting games. Now, this was kind of my first fighting game ever of this kind of style. Most of my past experience comes from platform fighting games and nothing like this. So you give me Smash Bros or even Multiverses, listen, that game was good. Before they decided to like remake it and turn it bad and then shut down, it was a good game. But anyway, if you give me one of those, I could probably be relatively okay at those. But then you give me anything like this and I am a little baby noob that has absolutely no idea what he is doing and just mashes buttons. Now with Marvel Tokon, the only reason I decided to play it is because it's Marvel. It has, well, Spider-Man, and I might be 25 years old, but I have an obsession with Spider-Man. And everything about it, including its art style and just look overall, really stood out to me and I wanted to try it out. And of course, with that, it meant that I decided to platinum it as an inexperienced player. So in today's video, I want to take you on a little journey to show you off how that all went, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. Be sure to subscribe as well. These videos take some time to make, and on the goal to hitting 10,000 subscribers. Also like or something, I don't know. Let's go. Yeah. Anyway, hopping right into the game, I decided to take on the first thing that looked like it was, friendly enough for a newbie like myself, and that is with the story mode, or more specifically with episodes. I thought that this was going to be a good way to just kind of get me introduced to the game and overall its mechanics, and get a chance to learn before I have to go and fight a bunch of people and probably lose multiple times. But aside from that, the story has you playing as a group of 4 across 5 different teams. Reason for this is because this guy, called the champion, wants to battle a team of 4. Yeah, and of course, if the team doesn't defeat him, which isn't really part of the gameplay but part of the story in a way, he will destroy all of Earth. So, heroes, villains, everyone is pretty motivated to defeat him. Now, small minor thing to complain about and point out, the reason for that is because this was a really difficult story to get through, and not because the enemies were difficult to fight for the most part, but mainly because it's the exact same story 5 times. Each team has a team leader, and then that team leader in the story has to gather 3 members. This part of the game is pretty unique. Then after that, every single time you have to defeat the promoter, which she is kind of a pain in the ass to go through. It's probably just because I'm really bad. From there, it's the same thing of fighting the other 4 teams, if you're playing as one of the story teams, over and over and over and over. Yeah, it creates some interesting interactions here and there, but that is painfully boring. And then right after that, every single time you fight the champion 3 times, because of course he has to go through different phases because he's a sore loser and refuses to lose fully. At first, it was okay. Second time, okay, not too bad. Third time, oh boy. Fourth time, oh my god. And then lastly, 5th, what are we doing? Going through each story was pretty tedious, again, just because it was the same thing over and over. And I hate to say it, but surprisingly, the worst story in it had to be Amazing Guardians. And the reason it hurts to say is because this is Spider-Man's team. Like, even he couldn't save this and make it entertaining enough for me not to be absolutely bored with every single plotline. But I guess on the good side, it was kind of cool the way they had comics to progress the story, which was the problem with Spider-Man's story. These comics just never ended and they weren't entertaining enough to, I guess, satisfy my small brain. But there was one thing that I did enjoy about them, and that was that every single one was illustrated by a different artist, and also some of them specifically colored by a different artist as well. Very cool. Unfortunate though that every single actual cutscene was the exact same because they were the, like repeated story of 5 times over and over and over. On the bright side, the stories that really did shine and they were actually entertaining enough to get through was the Storm team, Ghost Rider team, and Doctor Doom team, which I will say, the Night of Doom story, oh my god, that one was good. Even though it was the 5th time that I was going through it, it definitely got really interesting and really fun because it kind of flipped everything around. The thing that I said where, there's a team member that goes searching for other team members, this one is just Doom straight up teleporting to the champion, challenging him, gathering stuff throughout gathering his other team members, which are of course all villains, and one of them is Carnage, which is really cool to see. He ends up gathering enough items items and things like that to essentially steal the champion's abilities and becomes Champion Doom. That's so cool. And of course, that basically meant that like all of the stories themselves were not canon, so whatever story you did ended up being the canon one, which just gets a bit messy and confusing if you want to look more into the story. But I did really enjoy the fact that at least one of them didn't end with, you know, just a happy ending of like, I don't know, Avengers being Avengers, X-Men being hated by human beings, of course, Spider-Man going back to Aunt May, and this one wasn't too bad. Loki became a car salesman for Ghost Rider, and Blade and Deadpool tagged along and formed a happy family. And you know what? Deadpool was one of the best parts of this game. Every single time he showed up, he was just really fun and great, and Nolan North is like just Deadpool. His voice is perfect. Alright. I just had to delve into the story a tiny bit because it's a Marvel game, it's a Marvel story. I thought it was very interesting to go through it. But, of course, throughout the entire thing, I gathered quite a lot of trophies. Firstly, every single time I finish a story, I got a trophy for its completion. And then after finishing every single story, I got the Watcher trophy to put that on top. Aside from other story trophies like defeating the promoter the first time around, I got some trophies that were specifically move related, which I would go over most of them, but considering there was so many of them and they're move specific, just know I got them out of complete coincidence, since I was essentially button mashing at this stage and I had no idea what I was doing. Do I still know what I'm doing? Not exactly. Not for the most part. But now that that's done, it was time to actually try and focus on the trophies and not just, you know, get them by accident like I just did there. Which are going to be most of the weirdly easy ones. Like clearing the startup battle, which was the tutorial for the game that I might have skipped at the start, which would have helped me immensely during the story fights. Anyway, for that, I got the Prelude to Battle trophy. From there, I got one for joining Open Lobby, which is an area where you have like a chibi character that can run around and either fight other players at an arcade machine or play basketball or become small. Hey, look. Another trophy. This kind of a thing, from my understanding, isn't really unique to fighting games. I don't think so anyway. But since it's a Marvel game, it really reminds me of New York City from Marvel Rivals, especially with like, you know, the pin particle option where you can become big or small. The horrors of this place though. Anyway, while I was here, I also followed the player for a trophy and then decided to dabble in my first ever battle, which was at one of these arcades with my first ever real opponent, Matt 297. He beat my ass real bad. You know what? Pretty impressive, since I only have like a few hours and most of it is in the story. And the last easy trophy for now I went for was literally rewatching that replay where I got my ass handed to me. Sweet loss. There we go. Another one to the list. Now I decided it was time to tackle some actual trophies and, you know, start fighting, which I do need to immensely improve in. Well, what better way to do that than completing a trophy that literally makes me learn combos for characters. I didn't expect for these combos to be the most finger-breaking, impossible perfect moments and mind-numbing combos ever. I think this is one of the reasons I will never ever be good at fighting games like at all. You're telling me I need to press crouch square, crouch triangle, stand circle, jump cancel, jump and combine with right and circle, jump circle, perform a trick mid-air, jump around some more, jump circle 2 more times, play some volleyball, rebound, and do Sentinel of Liberty? Whatever the hell that means. Why are you both bobbing right now? Like, what's happening? I will say this is the last combo on Cap, which I kind of dramatize right now, but basically this is what the earlier combos look to me at this moment, like this one looks to me right now, which I still have no idea how I'm supposed to do. It's like, what? This is just in through one ear out the other, in through one eyeball out the other. Worst part about all of this for me was that I had to not only do it, of course, 10 times, but also I have to do it 100 overall for a trophy. Yeah, I decided to not work harder, but work smarter. And since there are 20 characters, I just decided to tackle the first few combos that I was capable of doing on as many characters as I could, just to get that 10 combo trophy out of the way. For now, we're gonna stay away from those. I'll be back at some other point. To give my fingers a bit of a rest, which isn't easy at all in this kind of a game, I tried out the All Stars mode, which is basically more fighting. And also on top of that, it's kind of like the story mode, but also not. It removes the cutscenes and the plot, but you basically go up against AI again. And this AI is broken up into different groups, which is, you know, the Avengers, X-Men, yada, yada, yada. And you go in, you defeat enemies, and you progress through almost like a bracket until you get to whatever direction you decide to go to, and you get a very easy trophy. Okay. Something interesting that I noticed around this point is, for some odd reason, whatever I did there, if it was the battle itself or all the battles battles themselves, they counted towards a trophy that I don't think they should have. And the one that I'm specifically talking about is the one that requires you to play 500 battles, and that's kind of it. But there's a mini catch, and it emphasizes that you are not allowed to do these matches in offline versus or training mode. Now, the thing with this one is it doesn't really kind of delve more into what it means by offline versus. I just assumed it meant like specifically, you know, the versus mode and like offline specifically on that. But also it would make sense that they would include episodes in this, which they do not count. And also All-Stars, because that is an offline with AI battle thing, whatever you want to call it. But for some strange reason, even though I've literally done no casual matches, nothing like that, this counted. And before you say it's because I did that battle with Matt a while ago, it's actually not. I did check if this did count towards that progress, and for some odd reason the open lobby arcade machine battles that you do with people don't count, which I think that's a mistake. I feel like that definitely needs a change if it hasn't already happened while you're watching this video. So yeah, I don't really know why it counted. I don't know what part counted. I only did training, combos, maybe the first startup battle that I did counted for some odd reason, or again, it's just the all-stars. I mean, I'm okay. 1 out of 500. So many more to go. Anyway, we'll be delving into that one a tiny bit more later. Speaking of the other modes like Versus, I decided to dabble in it and got a pretty easy trophy, nothing too hard. After that, I decided it was time to try some casual matches, which of course, as you might have already guessed, they did not go very well, not good at all. Out of 10 matches, I unfortunately only won 1. And you know what? At least there was 1. It wasn't like I won 0, but it was very close to basically being 0. In all honesty, it's ridiculous how bad I am at this game. Every time I had something going for me, it ended up being because the opponent became like the best player ever and locked the hell in and destroyed me. Or it might have just been because I was so close to winning, I just ended up choking and missing every single punch possible. But probably the most common matches that ended up happening are ones that I like to call, you don't get to move and you just basically have to sit there and watch me whoop your ass. Those happen more often than I think they should have, especially with my skill gap. I don't think there's any skill-based matchmaking in this, or at least any bots, which, you know, is a good thing. Or maybe there are bots and they're just so good that they still destroy me because I'm so bad, which is crazy. Again, most games that I touch, I'm pretty solid at, but for some odd reason with fighting games, they're just not my thing. Well, at least I got a trophy for that, you know. I think it's just like a participation reward. What better way to continue than doing a ranked match for a trophy? I lost. Really bad. As expected. There we go. Participation trophy for losing. From here, I decided it was time to maybe take things a bit more serious and just go and learn how to become a good player. Especially since I have to do 100 combos altogether. Or well, 90 for now. One thing that I found out was that going up to 5 combos was honestly doable for me. But then from 6 onwards, it was like the most confusing thing ever. Because for some reason, jumping just doesn't make sense for me. Especially with these kind of moves, where you have to combine jumping with doing certain other things, where it says jump, but then don't jump. It was a mess. And you know, since there are 20 heroes, that means that if I do 5 on every single hero, that could add up to... Can you guess the special number? That's right! It's 100! Gotta keep you on your toes. I don't want you to be falling asleep while you watch this video. It's not that boring. After an embarrassing amount of hours and struggling to figure out most of these combos because some of them were unique, but also some of them weren't, and it was a good thing to constantly repeat them, I was able to finally get the trophy. Whew. I just sped up getting arthritis by like 10 years. After going through all of that, there was one trophy I kind of ignored for a while, which shouldn't have been ignored since I would consider it part of the easy trophies that I was going through earlier, and that's because it just requires you to use a sticker, which, you know, you might think, what? Why are you talking about this trophy? This should be pretty easy. Let me tell you something. For some odd reason, this trophy is not easy because you think, go into open lobby, open this wheel, choose a sticker, boom. But nope, no trophy. And turns out, what I have to do is create a room, which, hey look, a trophy for making one. Not the point. Basically, for some odd reason, according to people online, it should work here. I was a tiny bit worried, mainly because the percentage of the amount of players that have this trophy unlocked is fairly low, considering, you know, that this is such an easy trophy, but also because I had no idea what I was supposed to do. Turns out that instead of using the quick action wheel, whatever you would call it, you actually have to specifically go into typing and equip an option to basically use a sticker. I don't I don't know why they wanted me to do this. Why doesn't the wheel work? Is this bugged out or am I just stupid? Was I supposed to know this? I don't know. I just feel like the wheel itself would have been a self-explanatory thing for this trophy, but nope, it didn't pop until I did that. And you know what? Since I was in this room, I decided to experiment with something, which involved recruiting my wife Kaylee as a test dummy. And the reason for this is because I wanted to specifically see if battles in this room would count for the 500 matches. Huh, how about that? Turns out that the room counts. This was a huge surprise. And you know what? I'm going to take that into consideration for future stuff. But for now, I got some other trophies that need attention. Like Deadpool Saves the Tokon universe, which has you unlock all secret commands from the command list using Deadpool. For this bad boy, I had to pull up a guide because I was not trying to figure out these secret command lists myself. And as you might have guessed, these were actually pretty painful to pull off. Only reason I think I actually got these was because I spammed the input repeatedly until it worked. Marvel Tokon! Fun fact! Now this one is interesting because it actually is kind of like a combination of a bunch of Easter eggs that this game has, which if you're watching this video and you've been keeping up with Marvel Tokon in any way throughout, I don't know, what like the few days that has been out, or maybe what months, whenever you're watching this, Deadpool himself in this game is literally a walking reference, which is like insanely perfect for him because his whole thing in the comics and even in the movies, if you've seen the movies of course, is that he breaks the fourth wall. Well, what better way to make Deadpool in this game? And I don't really know if it applies in Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom or anything like that, but in this game, most of his moves, if not all of them, correct me if I'm wrong, are literally moves from past fighting games, and I'm pretty sure it's like most of the fighting games that are popular and stuff like that. Now, I'm not gonna act like I know exactly what most of these are, but you can look up videos that, you know, compare and contrast stuff, but introduces like some really good memes of like this Dr. Doom image that I actually love seeing inside of this game, or one that I know is from Mortal Kombat, but I still think it's really cool. It's one where like an arcade machine falls, and I don't know, I just think it's, you know, a nice cool reference, even though again I had no idea what it was originally. Or like gets introduced and he does a T-pose, and for some odd reason on social media, if it was on TikTok or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, most people thought that it was a bug where Deadpool is doing a T-pose. I don't really know how some people would have fallen for that unless it was like rage bait to be like, oh, I thought he bugged out. But either way, it's really cool to see, you know, Deadpool doing references to games, even specifically that are like bugs in games, not just past games. I think he's the coolest character in this with references and all of that stuff, but you know, Polyester Man is still my favorite, so I didn't play much of Deadpool, but I think that's just something worthy of mentioning if in case for some odd reason you're watching this video and you had no idea about the references. Back to the video. But anyway, after spamming repeatedly for my last combo that I had to do, I got the trophy. That was surprisingly challenging for me. Added on another 5 years to speeding up the arthritis there. Okay, now I only had a few more trophies left. Some easier than others, or at least less time consuming. So I went for those first, like the last of my moveset trophies, which were ones that I wouldn't have really gotten by accident before because they kind of require more brains to it. Like Super Assemble, which is for landing Super Assemble 10 times. It's actually a very useful move and ended up being actually one of my favorite ones in the game overall. Essentially, by charging this meter down here up to 150 for best efficiency, you can activate a special move that during this special move for the said character that you're using, you're then able to spam X repeatedly so that then the character that should be next, if you were to switch to them, and then the character that is next after that basically perform the same kind of moves for themselves back to back, and you can deal a lot of damage. For this, I decided to do it on the champion battle, which is, you know, the last one in like the episodes, just because he has a lot of health and he takes forever to destroy, and it made it kind of really fun and easy as well. Next was one that I once again recruited Kaylee for, mainly because it seems to be a tiny bit more specific than the other one. That being the perfect timing and right back at you trophies. These involve the crossover reflect move. Basically, the crossover move itself is one where if you block a player's hit, you are then able to bring in another character to hit them back, and it's called the crossover with text in the background. The crossover reflect is if a player does this, you are then able to basically backfire and do a crossover yourself. So for that, I had Kaylee learn how to do it, and then we were able to complete both of these trophies because one of them was for getting it perfectly, and then the other one was for doing it 5 times overall. And yeah, I know I could have done these against 3 players, especially since I have 500 matches to get through, but I just kind of wanted to get these out of the way and not have to stress about completing these later on. Next was a trophy that I kind of misunderstood. You see, I had to win a game in Arcadia mode, which for some odd reason I assumed that the arcades back in the open lobby were those things that I had to do, since, you know, Arcadia arcades. But no, it's a very strange separate mode, game mode, whatever you would call it. You have the ability to hop in against bots or real players, which I chose the bots option. Then you have to go through multiple rounds that kind of rotate. The first one being collecting stars, and then you fight enemies at an arcade. I guess there were arcades involved in this. And then you have to back out, collect stars, but the map gets smaller, and then fight again. And then at the very end, you just have to keep on like maybe beating people up if you want to choose that option and get as many stars as possible, and you win. I don't think I like this one all that much. I prefer getting my ass handed to me back against real players or something like that. And you know what? Not my proudest moment to say this again, but the second last trophy was also one that I kind of misunderstood. So let me explain myself real quick. This trophy requires you to complete the champion course in the All-Stars arena. Remember that thing where I had to basically like fight people and it was like a super easy trophy because it's almost like the story? Well, for this, I assumed the champion part of this trophy meant the champion difficulty, since that just felt like a no-brainer. I just assumed champion course means get through a course while being on the champion difficulty. I understand that they probably would have pointed out difficulty, but considering that right now there's only 0.4% of players that have this trophy, I thought it was just really hard. It's just really time consuming bonus mode that nobody really bothered to play. And that's because you have to complete every single course like I did with the Avengers one before, onto the X-Men one, yada yada, and then you unlock the champion course itself that you then have to progress through and then obviously fight the champion at the very end. One thing I will say, I did of course go through the first ones on easy, which were ridiculously easy, but then moving on to the champion course itself, which had me go through other people to fight my way up to him, they were actually pretty tough, even on easy, which was pretty impressive. And I guess it kind of spiced some things up more and made me actually learn instead of just beating up an AI that just, you know, stood no chance against me because I spammed the same buttons over and over. But there we go. That is done. And with that, it means that we are down to one single trophy. And that is, of course, the 500 matches, which I am nowhere near to finishing. So it was time to lock in. And for this, I applied a lot of different methods to make it as efficient as possible. For one, I decided to play as many casual matches as I could bear. And for the most part, they weren't actually the worst, surprisingly. I managed to make a person not want to do a rematch with me because I defeated him so many times. Pretty proud of that one. Ooh. But of course, there were still those games where I wasn't able to move, or they just locked in like crazy at the very end and destroyed me and I couldn't get any last hits in. Aside from casual, I also decided to fight Kaylee inside of the room match, especially since it counted. One thing I learned, I might be with this woman for quite some time, I did not know she was really good at fighting games. She handed my ass to me quite a few times. Okay, I see how it is. But also, whenever she didn't really want to play the game because she's not, you know, crazy about fighting games like I am, I decided to use her account as a test dummy to make progress on the levels, but also learn Spiderman as best as I could, because instead of, you know, going into practice and practicing in that, if I can make progress on the 500 matches while I try to learn a character, I'm gonna do that. And I trained a lot. There was a lot of hours put into this and a lot of matches played that were both against Kaylee while she was real, Kaylee when she was AFK, and then against real players in casual. And you know what? This is both stressful, boring, but also really fun, because it really made me realize that there's a reason why fighting games are 2 players, and especially why most people would play fighting games with their friends or with a second controller, because there's just something about, you know, fighting a person repeatedly and trying to see who could actually become the better player. Sometimes when enemies in casual mode were like, hey, let's rematch, I was actually up for it because either I won and that was satisfying, or they won and I was like, I can't let you win, let's go again. So after many hours, I was down to only 10 matches. And you know what? Since I tried my best to learn Spider-Man and as many combos as I possibly could on him, I decided to do something bold. And that was, for the last 10 matches, to test my skills, I was going to play them in ranked mode. I lost 4 in a row because the game wouldn't stop matching me with the same guy that was really good and kept on defeating me even after, going through those 2 matches that you have to play that are mandatory. And then I decided to back out and search for another person to play with, and the game still matched me up with the same guy. And then instead of rematching him, I decided to back out and search for another person. And because you don't get to decide who you match, I matched with him again and he destroyed me again. And then I backed out and I decided to change my options to be able to get more different players. And then I matched with a person and he still destroyed me on my 5th match, and that means that I just lost 5 matches in a row and ranked and made no progress. Yeah, I'm never hitting master, am I? There was not even any hope that I'll be hitting silver or anything. Oh boy. So instead of, losing a bunch of matches and giving people some free wins, as nice as that would be for them, I decided to instead finish off those 5 matches with just some more casual ones. The first 2 of the 5 that I'd left, they weren't good. But then for my last 3, it was almost perfect. I ended up finding a person who was Carnage, and I was Spider-Man, and I won the first 2 times that we went up against each other, which was, fun because hell yeah, I'm a good player for once. And then for my final match, the one that was going to be for the Platinum Trophy, bro locked the hell in and destroyed me. It couldn't be so perfect. I don't even care about winning the other 2 matches. I really wanted to win the last one, but whatever, they got it, they deserved it. And I got the Platinum Trophy. How anticlimactic. Could have ended it off with like a win in competitive or something, but I was too scared to touch rank. Just so bad at this game. And there we go. The Platinum is achieved and everything is completed. That was actually relatively easy. Now, did I cheat in a way, or at least make my life a bit too easy by playing against like a fake version of my wife? Maybe. Do I have regrets? Not really. I have actually played this game since I finished it and have been editing it to play with her, and it's just kind of fun. Even though since that time that I last fought her, which was the early hundreds inside of the 500 matches, I have slightly improved. I've been kind of winning more, but I'm gonna teach her, I'm gonna make her better. And just overall, I guess it's nice having a fighting game that's like this that I can revisit. And maybe I will purchase the DLC, season pass, battle pass, whatever you want to call them nowadays. I didn't buy that version of the game originally, which I have regrets because I wanted that Spider-Man suit. The Insomniac Spider-Man suit, it just looks so good in this game. What the hell? What were they thinking with this suit on It's like the worst one. And I'm personally a person that really enjoys new Spider-Man suits. Like, this is the Brand New Day suit, which is like now my favorite suit ever. But obviously before that was the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. But I'm a fan of the Amazing Spider-Man suit, like the first one. I'm a fan of like most suits that kind of go bold, and even if they're not official. But this is a disaster. I even kind of like the Rivals one, even though that was like definitely second worst in my opinion. But this is... I hate this suit. It's just bad. It's just bad. Thank God the white and the black and like even the one that kind of makes him look like the Iron Spider suit from the comics. Thank God those exist, because the default one. And it sucks that his story sucks because he's Spider-Man, man. His story's not supposed to suck. Whatever. Thank you so much for watching. I have another video coming out really soon if you want to see that one. It's actually nothing to do with Marvel or anything, but it's a Platinum video. So subscribe if you want to see more Platinums.